'Tis the season to be happy. But what is the reason for the season? In this week's Signs of the Times radio, Kent and I will be talking about where you can find your nearest road to Bethlehem, as well as what's going on behind the scenes in the Christmas story.
This is Signs of the Times radio with Kent Kingston.
Hey everyone, welcome to Signs of the Times radio. I'm Daniel Kuberek, and joining me in the studio is Kent Kingston.
Yes, thank you, Daniel. Daniel has stepped out from behind the producer's desk today, the editor's desk, which is a great work that he does every week for Signs Radio. And yeah, in the interviewer's chair, which is scaring me a little bit. But look, Daniel, you do have wonderful golden tonsils, and I'm glad that our listeners get to hear a bit of that today.
Thank you. Well, it's not about me, it's actually about you this time. First of all, how are you? I mean, Christmas is approaching. People are jumping into the shops, buying heaps of stuff.
Yeah.
What are you up to? How are you going with your Christmas shopping?
Well, yeah, I actually did do a little bit of a shopping spree last night with my wife. We, do a bit of Hungarian St. Nicholas in December. So we got a few bits and pieces for family, just like little gifts that just, show that we love them and that we care about them and we're thinking of them. So that was cool. I have done a bit of shopping, I have to confess.
Did you get anything for yourself? Like
for
your bike?
No, I got some clothes and stuff because, I was with my wife and I was in Kmart. So
nothing for the man shed?
No, nothing for the man shed.
I got to say, I like your man shed. Your man shed is very manly. There's a lot of hardcore tools.
It's a very big. Well, see, I have a son who's studying to be a mechanic, so he buys the cool tools, and then I get to use them.
Yeah, well, your son is definitely way more manly than me. So what's going to be your deal this year? Because you obviously have a massive family, and I still haven't met them all because they all scattered down the east coast of Australia.
Yep.
So what's going to be the deal? Are you going anywhere, or are they coming to you? Who are you hanging out with this year? What's going to be the go?
You will be happy to know, Mr. Daniel Kuberek, that we are driving to the fabled golden city of Adelaide for Christmas this year. So yeah, heading across from here on the New South Wales coast, across on the Hume Highway, and then the Sturt Highway, and across the Hay Plain. Boy, that's a long drive.
But such a boring drive.
I enjoy it. I don't know, there's always emus and stuff, which is cool.
You have to avoid certain native animals.
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah, but it's always a bit sort of sad to see how dry it is out there. In the Murrumbidgee sort of river area. Yeah, it's real dry out there. But yeah, we'll be heading over to Adelaide to see my in-laws, to hang out with them for Christmas, and then we're heading back to the New South Wales coast for my parents' 70th birthday, which is happening late in December. And yeah, and then you and I are off to New Zealand, which is going to be fun.
Well, so that's going to be quite a bit of mileage on the car. I hope your head gasket doesn't crack.
Oh, don't say that. No, look, it should be. I have to make sure I service it before we do that, though. So yeah, Christmas is going to be fun. Going to be catching up with family, and you're right, they are scattered all over the place. So yeah, looking forward to hanging out with both sides of the family, the in-laws and my side.
Yeah, so you're obviously going down there to hang out with your wife's family who live in Adelaide, and they're Hungarian. So how does that look? How does a Hungarian Christmas look? Is there lots of food that you've never heard of? What's the deal?
Look, there is certainly some Hungarian dishes that I really do enjoy that are sort of standard. There's a stuffed cabbage dish, sort of that involves some.
Is it stuffed with rice or?
It has some rice and vegetables in there, but there's also some what's it called? Sauerkraut. Yeah, there's some sauerkraut involved. So that's very nice. So that in Hungarian that's called törtő kapusta. So that's very nice. And I really love Hungarian potato salad. It's really good. It's not just like egg and potato and a bunch of mayonnaise, which is often what you get, with an Aussie potato salad. This is a colourful potato salad with cucumber and capsicum and maybe red onion. And yeah, it's a really beautiful, colourful, healthy salad. So those are two things I'm looking forward to in particular. And my mother-in-law is a great cook, so she'll bound to have some great sort of eggplant spread that she's like made herself, this beautiful smoky flavor. Oh, love it. Oh, my mouth is watering. Yeah. So it's going to be good.
Sounds like you're going to need a gym membership after that.
Yes.
Well, if you want to train with someone, I know a guy.
Yeah. I do try to get out early in the morning when everyone likes to sleep in, to get out to the park and do a couple of laps or something while I'm on my Christmas holidays, just to prove that I do have some level of fitness.
Well, I mean, I don't doubt it, because you sometimes go running at work. But hey, like last year you were there for Christmas as well, or around Christmas time.
Yeah.
And I was in there at the same time, but we didn't really catch up because you have your mates and I have mine.
That's right.
But you did sort of invite me to go to one thing, which was the Lobethal lights.
Yes.
So are you going again this year, or what was that like last year?
Look, it's beautiful. It was a really great drive out through the Adelaide Hills, and Lobethal in particular. I mean, I guess a lot of people know that there's been a lot of German settlement in the Adelaide Hills, back in the day, and that German influence is still felt there, most really in the town of Harndorf, which is a bit of a tourist trap, but still a great place to visit. But another quite German town is Lobethal, which we Aussies call it. And they have all these Christmas lights everywhere, all through the town for quite a few weeks actually. And from I think December 8 right through to December 23, they actually have a nativity play happening right there in the main street in front of the Lutheran church. So I actually, we went to Lobethal last year in the Christmas period to check it out, but sadly I hadn't realised that even though the lights continue into January, the Christmas play finishes just before Christmas Day. So we missed out on the Christmas play. So hopefully we'll be able to go back and check it out this year and actually see the Christmas play in action in Lobethal. Yeah, that'll be fun.
So that's not the only one. Not the only nativity scene that's happening around the country, because it's actually in this month's Signs of the Times magazine, we list wherever you are in Australia or New Zealand, there's bound to be something that you can go to. And one of these things is the Road to Bethlehem. Now, there are quite a few of those around the place, and we explored some of them in Signs of the Times. So can you just tell us a few about them, where you can find a few in your local area?
Well, look, basically the Road to Bethlehem concept started in Melbourne several years ago now, maybe even more than a decade, I think. Basically, the idea is that this is how would you describe it? It's community theatre, I guess you could call it, because it is like local people, amateur people, usually from local Seventh-day Adventist churches, who get together to put on the story of Jesus in Jesus' birth in a dramatic sense. But instead of everyone coming and sitting in seats and watching the whole play unfold in front of them, what happens is that the audience actually moves from one scene to the next scene to the next scene to the next scene. So there may be actually multiple people playing Mary and Joseph, for example. So you'll see 3 or 4 Mary and Josephs as you go through it. You'll go into Herod's palace, you'll see the shepherds, you'll see the wise men, you'll see all the different scenes of the Christmas story, and it all kind of links, and you kind of walk through each set, and often there's a lot of effort made, in terms of biblical costumes and props, and sometimes there are like markets or other entertainments sort of surrounding this whole Road to Bethlehem theatre experience. There's been camel rides and sort of those kind of Middle Eastern-y kind of things, and great food. And we're actually doing it at my church, where we're not under the Road to Bethlehem name, which a number of them are around Australia and New Zealand. Ours is called the Stable Door, but similar concept. But we've written our own script, and we're going to have a lot of fun doing that. I'm actually one of the Josephs, Daniel. You'll be happy to know. Yeah.
You told me that you're growing your hair out for it.
That's right.
That's like Oscar-worthy commitment to the role.
That's right. I'm so method.
Yeah, you're pretty much just acting like Joseph around the office now.
That's right. I think I'm going to wash my hair and actually put some olive oil in it, just to go like real full Middle East. We'll see how it goes.
Are we ready for that, really?
I don't know.
So there are a bunch of places. Some of them, there are no Road to Bethlehems, but there are other things. But I encourage anyone who's listening to this to check out our website, and it's the title of the article where you can find all that stuff is called Share the Christmas Story, and you can find where your nearest one is if you're in Australia or New Zealand.
Look, there's a Road to Bethlehem in Perth, there's one in Mildura, there's one in Melbourne, I mentioned that there's the Nativity Play in the Adelaide Hills there at Lobethal. There's another one at Canberra. Where else? Central Coast, New South Wales, Tauranga in North New Zealand, and Christchurch in South New Zealand. And as well as that, there's another event called Stable on the Strand, which is in Townsville, right up there in North Queensland. So there's another option to check out. And there's also a Lake Macquarie at my church at Hillview, our stable door thing. So yeah, there's a bunch of things happening. Sadly, nothing in Sydney this year, nothing in Brisbane or the Adelaide metro area. So, and these are areas where, there have been Road to Bethlehem events previously, and I'm really hoping that in the future, they'll be back on.
Yeah, that's right. Anyone who wants to find out where the closest one is to them, I encourage you to check out the dates as well, because some of them have already finished by now, some of them are still going. So just give that a suss and see where the nearest one is to you.
It's a really great experience. Some families have made it sort of part of their yearly Christmas tradition, because it's really, really good to, you kind of escape the Santa and Rudolph sort of stuff and all the jingle, and you get right back to the historical basis of Christmas.
That's right. Now, let's just switch gears here to your article that you wrote for the December Signs of the Times magazine, which is called The Christmas Invasion. Mm-hmm. Now, obviously, we'll jump into the vegan meat, as I like to call it, of this article in a second. But first of all, do you think that the meaning of Christmas has been lost? Do you think it plays on anyone's mind, or do you think that it is something that's discussed enough? What are your thoughts on the true meaning of Christmas?
Look, I think these things evolve. They certainly do evolve over time. And if you ask people, I think most people in Australia or New Zealand, or those sorts of countries today, what does Christmas mean to you? I'm pretty sure most of them would say one word: family. That's what Christmas is about for them, because obviously, a lot of, all schools are on break, a lot of workplaces go on break, and people take the opportunity to reconnect with their family. So, and I think that's a positive thing for sure. Absolutely. But yeah, I think what you're hinting at there, Daniel, is that there are a number of competing narratives when it comes to, what does Christmas mean? And I think we do struggle with that as families, particularly if we have like young kids and we're parents, because it's presents. What am I getting? And adults tend to sort of reinforce this in the kids' minds. Because any sort of random adult who comes up to a kid in the lead up to Christmas, oh, so what's Santa getting you for Christmas? Or what do you want for Christmas? It's always want. What are you going to get? And I think that does sort of feed into that vulnerability that we have about giving presents is one that is exploited thoroughly by the commercial sector, by shops. And look, you could say it's good for the economy, and we always look for a bit of an uptick in economic statistics around the Christmas rush. But I don't know, I'm not sure how healthy that is. The sort of pressure that people have to spend a lot of money to buy presents for every Arthur and Martha. I don't know. I think there are ways to give gifts without falling into that total commercialism trap, though. We've had Christmases where we've said, okay, here's the rule. We're giving presents to one another, but like we might actually just choose like one person, or it might be, one of those random, Secret Santa sort of things. So, okay, you're buying a gift for that one person, but the rule is the gift has to be handmade. So you can't just buy a gift and give it to them. Or you may have something like, okay, it can't be an object, it has to be a shared experience. So this is the sort of thing, I guess, where you write vouchers, I'll give you a massage or a day out at the beach, or kicking the footy in the park or whatever. And so these are things that, hey, these are experiences that I want to share. And this is about the family thing again, I guess. So there are ways I think we can counter that commercial, that crass commercialism aspect of Christmas. Sorry, I interrupted you.
Yes, like I was just going to mention, obviously, my parents don't celebrate Christmas for their own personal reasons. But one time my mum was in the shops, and this lady, she struck up a conversation with one of the checkout ladies, and checkout ladies was like, well, how's your Christmas shopping going? My mum said she doesn't celebrate Christmas, and the lady was like, man, I wish I was you. And I used to work at Coles, and man, like Christmas, like the night before Christmas, or the 24th, that was the busiest day of the year for like supermarkets. It was just so crazy. It was, impossible to keep up. They literally had everyone that like was rostered, that was a part of that store, like on at the same time.
Oh, really?
Just to meet up with the demand.
Wow.
It was crazy. Yeah, but anyway, so you're right when you say that we can get caught up in this consumerism aspect of it, which I don't really like, which is why I sort of tell my friends, don't get me anything. I'm not going to get you anything either, unless there's like something like a Secret Santa or whatever, or something like that I don't want to be a bummer to miss out on. But generally, I just make it clear that I don't really participate in it as such. But let's talk about why Christmas. What's the event that caused this whole celebration? People go into it for a variety of reasons, the family aspect of it, but fundamentally Christmas is about the birth of Jesus. So because that's what you explore in this article, which is where does this fit in as far as Earth's history goes? What's the significance?
And this is an interesting thing because I think the evidence is probably against Jesus of Nazareth, being born on the 25th of December. He was, probably born at another time of year, but, like the Queen's birthday, we celebrate it at a time that kind of works for us, and that, has become a season, a Christmas season. And I guess we should be aware too that whereas in a lot of countries, Christmas is December 25, in other countries where the like the Christian Orthodox sort of traditions hold sway, so places like Russia, Greece, probably the two most obvious ones, Christmas is later in the year. I think it's even around early March or something. So that's Christmas for them, and that's fine. I don't really mind what time we choose to remember, Jesus' birth. It's a incredibly important event, historically and spiritually. And you're right, and that is certainly another of the competing narratives of what is Christmas really about. And there are certainly are a lot of Christians who are very keen to remind everyone, hey, Jesus is the reason for the season. So let's not just get too caught up in Santa and Rudolph and Buble and massive piles of presents.
Michael Bublé only ever comes out. There's like a meme on Facebook that he only ever comes out of his cave when it's Christmas time, and then he just goes back in and disappears for the rest of the year.
And it's funny, I heard someone say the same thing about Mariah Carey the other day too, which is interesting because I sort of grew up listening to Mariah Carey when she was at the top of the pops sort of thing, and now she's been relegated to Christmas album. So that's really really interesting. But yeah, look, I think it's important, and I think it's an opportunity to Christmas is to connect with our community, to remind them, the origins of Christmas are about Jesus and this incredible event. And so what? People have babies all the time. Why is the birth of this particular baby so important? And I guess that's probably the direction you're going to take this interview, right, Daniel?
That's right. Well, first of all, like what is the meaning of Jesus' birth? Obviously, as Christians, we hold Jesus' death in high regard because of its significance. Jesus died for our sins. Because of that, we are saved. But why is it that we almost hold Christmas in higher regard as far as around the world a celebration is? Christmas is more hyped up than Easter is. What is the significance of Jesus' birth as far as the history of the world goes, and personally as far as our salvation goes? Yeah,
well, I think in some ways, because Easter is about Jesus' death and resurrection, we're talking about crucifixion. I mean, that's a pretty sort of somber, confronting, sort of topic. So I guess it's not the time when people get around, jump around and have a big party. I mean, it's a time of somber reflection and there is celebration too. There's resurrection, there's new life. It's incredible. But Christmas, I guess, is a little easier to sort of get into some unalloyed joy and feasting and merriment because it's the birth of a baby, and that's always an exciting thing. We can relate to that. But I guess to really grasp the significance of it, we need to really, really step back and have a look at this incredible cosmic conflict that was, going on for thousands of years, probably longer by the time Jesus was born. And look, I think probably, Daniel, what I'm going to need to do is to take you on a little bit of a Bible study, bit of a whistle-stop tour through the Bible, because it goes look, it goes Genesis, it goes Revelation, it goes all over the place, because what the Bible tells us is that in ancient times there was a battle in heaven. There was a war in heaven. It was between God and the angels who were loyal to him, and Lucifer, who had been one of the leading angels, but basically rebelled and split off and took a third of God's angels with him. There was a battle about who's right, who's wrong. At that point, Lucifer was thrown out of heaven. We begin to call him not Lucifer, but we call him Satan or the devil. And at the Garden of Eden, we have this opportunity. The devil, this ancient serpent, this ancient dragon, has this opportunity to basically check with Adam and Eve. Well, whose side are you going to be on in this conflict? And through deception and through their lack of, I guess, sticking with the clear instructions that God had given them, Adam and Eve and all of humanity who come after them basically choose Lucifer's side, the serpent's side, which has horrific consequences. We see the consequences of sin and death and all sorts of things around us in the world today. And right back there in the book of Genesis in chapter 3, the first hints are given that God actually has a solution to this problem. And God prophesies to Adam and Eve and to the serpent there, says, hey, listen, there's going to come a time when Eve will give one of Eve's descendants, he's called like the seed, will battle with Satan, with the serpent, and God says that you, serpent, you will bruise his heel, but he will crush your head. So this, obviously, being injured on the heel is a temporary thing. Being crushed on the head is a fairly permanent end. So there's this, and it's sort of a strange sort of saying that I guess it's one of those things that you think, I don't quite know what that means, but you file it away. And that's what you need to do with the Bible. Sometimes you don't quite understand something, but you say, that sounds significant, I want to file that away. And it certainly is significant, because what this is the very first prophecy that, that Jesus, the Son of God, would come and do battle with the devil. And we see that at the cross, as you mentioned, Daniel, that is the crucial moment when that battle was fought. That was the time when the heel was bruised, when things looked pretty bad. But the result was that the serpent's head, will eventually be crushed. So yeah, there's this cosmic battle going on, but what we see, the surprising thing we see with God so often, is that He doesn't necessarily come in sort of all guns blazing to overwhelm the devil or the enemy, whoever the enemy may be, with just this overwhelming force. And that's a strange thing. Why would God do that? And we have hints in the Bible. We have the story of Job. It's actually one of in terms of which book of the Bible was written first, Job is the earliest. And in the book of Job, we have this incredible insight into what is going on behind the scenes in spiritual places. We have this dialogue happening in Job between God and the devil. And God says, hey, have you seen this guy on earth? His name is Job. He is so obedient to me. Like he's upright. He's loyal to me. What a great guy. And Satan basically says, well, of course he's loyal to you, God, because you've blessed him. He's an incredibly wealthy guy. You've given him everything he could ever need. Of course he sticks by you. But, says the devil, if you will allow me to strike him down, to cause him to suffer, he'll curse you to your face. Of course, Job doesn't know this is happening. Job is just like any of us, living his life, on earth. But suddenly his whole life just explodes into chaos. All his worldly goods, basically destroyed or burned or stolen. He ends up incredibly sick with boils all over his body. His children, and this is the most horrific thing, his children are killed in a natural disaster. And he's like, what is going on, God? What is going on with this? And we get this glimpse into our suffering and our situations there. What is going on, God? And Job is never given a reason in the book of Job. Only we as the reader are given an insight into what is going on in heaven, that there is this battle for Job's loyalty going on. And I guess that tells us that there is a battle going on behind the scenes all the time. There are things that happen to us that seem random, that don't seem to make sense. We're never given any explanation, but there is a battle going on behind the scenes. And we also see in this situation that sometimes in fighting the battle, God pulls back.
Yeah, that's an interesting link you made there, because a lot of the time when bad things happen to people, we curse. Unlike Job, we curse God. We say, like, why do bad things happen to good people and whatever.
And that's the end of a lot of people's faith.
That's right. And another thing we say is that God doesn't understand that, he's up in heaven watching us in our misery, and yet we can often fail to understand that Jesus' birth he was on earth as a human, which is a big part of the significance of his birth.
Absolutely.
God as a human personified in the flesh, going through the same struggles that you and I would.
That's right. And that's right. So those are the two, well, they're probably more than two, but incredible things about Jesus' birth. Number one, yes, he becomes a human, so he can identify with our struggles. He knows what it's like to be human. So this is, as the Isaiah prophesied, Emmanuel, which means God with us. That is an incredible thing. But also we see, again, this tendency of God to fight his battles by being vulnerable, by being weak, in some way, by showing love, and somehow his love and his vulnerability overcoming the hate and the overwhelming power of evil. That is an incredible thing, that God made himself so vulnerable to be born as a baby, to insert himself into human history in that way, to make an eternal and a cosmic difference. It is a pretty sort of incredible thing it's more incredible than you or I deciding, hey, I'd like to become an ant. The descent that God had to make in order to become baby Jesus is much further than that. And we talk about being upwardly mobile. God in becoming Jesus was incredibly downwardly mobile. There's an incredible verse, like passage that the Apostle Paul wrote. He says, though Jesus was God, he did not think of equality with God as something to cling to. Instead, he gave up his divine privileges. He took the position of a slave and was born as a human being. And when he appeared in human form, he humbled himself and died a criminal's death on a cross. So in those verses there, we see Jesus' birth, born as a human being. We also see Jesus' death. And each of these is, going down, 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 down. The God of infinity broke into human history, not with a thundering invasion from the heavens, but, by being born as a baby. It's incredible. But look, I think you probably need to read the whole article to really sort of get the full implications.
Yeah, definitely give it a sus. It's called The Christmas Invasion. It's up on our website and in the magazine for this month's Signs of the Times. And that's definitely a very good thought to remember as we go into our Christmas period. Hey, thanks so much, Kent, for joining me. And I hope you have an awesome Christmas Day and Christmas Eve with your family there in Adelaide. Thanks so much for joining us on this month's Signs of the Times.
Thanks so much, Daniel, and a happy Christmas to you too, and to everyone listening.
Today's episode was based on an article appearing in this month's Signs of the Times magazine. A subscription is just $26 for 11 issues a year. To find out more, visit signsofthetimes.org.au. Signs of the Times has been published in Australia since 1886 and is proudly produced by Adventist Media.
This is an Adventist Media podcast.